Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar Removing Barriers to Growth. It's part of the growth formula series that we've been doing this year, and it's sort of based on my book and sort of what I've been learning through growing my own accountancy firm over the years basically. So I will start every webinar, like I do every webinar, is just thought for the session. So, which is it's by Thomas Jefferson. So if you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. Very simple. And these words were written 230 years ago, and it's as true today as it was back then. And this session hopefully will give some ideas, and it hopefully will be a little bit challenging in some aspects, and then just have a think about any actions that you might want to do from it. And also there'll be Q&A at the end. Agenda. So we're going to start off with the barriers. So what are they? I will just break it down very simply into a few. Then how to overcome the barriers, the reason and success of failure, the importance of letting go, and then leadership. And then there'll be Q&As at the end. So that's how we'll be doing it. My assumption with this, guys, is that you have a vision and that you know what you're wanting to do and where you're wanting to go. We have got another webinar on this, which is in our series, which we've already done. It's on the YouTube channel if you want to have a look at that. And that was basically a lot on vision. So it's worth writing that down, and I'm going to look at that if you haven't got it, but make sure you've got that vision. But a lot of assumption is on this agenda that you have a vision. Always just remind everybody what the growth formula is. So the growth formula is Y plus, in brackets, T plus R plus S. And the Y is you, and then team, the rhythm of the business, and the structure of your business. Why me? I know lots of you know me, so I'm really sorry, but I'll just very quickly. I've been MD of Naylor Accountancy Services since 2011. I've grown Naylor Accountancy Services over the years. And I've started Intelligent Outsourcing, where we create offshore teams for accountancy firms in 2016, and now we have over 100 people out in the Philippines. And I've also written the book, The Firm You Want, which is this book here, but I'll mention that later at the end. So what are the barriers? So the first and important thing to recognize that you will be the barrier to things, and it's in any accounting business. But by tackling the various barriers as well, a comprehensive approach gives you the idea of growth, sustainability, and achievable and consistent. So you want to be looking at what these barriers are. So there are three types of main ones that I want to be looking at. One is structural. If you don't have the structure that allows you to grow your firm, then you're going to be struggle and fail to grow basically. So you need to make sure you've got the right structure. So that structural is a issue straight away. Psychological. So if you, and this is why I sort of started saying one of the barriers is you, and the main one, because you have to make sure all this works in your organization and your business, your firm. So if you're the business owner, then you need to make sure you're in the right place. If not, then you're going to struggle and you will fail as well to grow, because you're not in the right place to allow you and your firm to grow. So the structural, psychological, and then organizational. And that's literally your team. So if you don't have the right team around you and you don't get them to do the right things, then you'll also be struggling to grow or fail to grow basically. Now, these are some things that I realized myself back in 2020, so during COVID lockdown, and they definitely applied to me. So I had to think of something and a way to move out of where I was. And I had to basically look and work out what the strategy would be to move Naylor Accountancy Services forward without me, because I was actually becoming the bottleneck. I was in the business and I was doing lots of things, and if I'd carried on like that, we would never have grown Naylor, and I wasn't actually able to focus on intelligent outsourcing either. So I wasn't able to focus on anything, and I certainly wouldn't have written the book as well. But I realized the structure that I needed to put in place. The problem I had then was I didn't have the team and the infrastructure around it, and I also needed to make sure I was in the right place. But just to simplify it again into the three types, the strategy. So if you don't have a structure that allows you to grow, like I've said, you will be struggling. So make sure you be looking at the structure. So structure is a massive thing within your business. So making sure that you have the right framework to grow your business, and you step back, or if you want to work in the business, that's absolutely fine. But then you just need to make sure that it's operating without you when you're not there as well. Mindset shift. So we all need to be basically constantly reviewing how we do things, and also believe in our vision. So if we don't believe in the vision that we've created, we can't get other people believing in it. So we need to make sure we are believing in it. And we also really want to get the team on board with that, but I'll go into that in more detail, and that's one thing we've covered in another webinar. But the assumption again here is that you've got a vision. So if you don't have a vision, then look at my webinar. It's also in the chapters in my book. It's one called Vision as well. So it's definitely worth looking into it and creating one if you haven't got one. Resource allocation. So ensure that you've got the right people doing the right things and the correct resources to allow them to perform the role that they need to be doing. And that might be technology. It could be 2 screens. I don't know if you don't have 2 screens in any business, get 2 screens straight away. It makes you more efficient all of a sudden straight away. It's especially as accountants and bookkeepers, having 2 screens makes a massive difference. Some people even have 3 screens. I don't do that. I just have the 2. And you just must ensure that your team know and understand what that is happening, where they're going, so they're motivated to carry out their role. And this is basically your A team. So the resource allocation is your team, the resources around them. And again, there's another webinar on this on team. So I think it's series 4 that we did this year, but have a look at that. So that's strategy, mind shift, and resource allocation. That's the barriers to overcome, basically, on a very simplistic scale. So the reason for success or failure is very simple. And I did allude this to the start. It is actually you. And it's you as a business owner. So as accounting and bookkeeping firm owners, it's basically our responsibility to actually make things go forward. And the problem we've got as accounting and bookkeepers is that we like to control things. And we want to make sure that you are focusing on lots of things. So you need to focus on the right things. And what your team focuses on is something that you need to be thinking about to ensure that they move forward. And you are the one that can show them the way forward, which comes into what we're going to talk about later in this as well. But it's all about making sure that you know what you're doing and make it sure that you are in the right frame of mind, and then you get other people following you as well on the path that you're doing. And I always say you are the reason for any business not growing, because as the business owner, as entrepreneur, because you are the one that decides what happens, what people do, and what you are focusing on, and what the business is focusing on. So if it's not moving the dial forward, you need to be looking at what to do to make something change. And just like Thomas Jefferson said, you need to change things in order to move things forward. And that's why in the growth formula, I always start with the why, you, and it's also outside the brackets. And it's because if you don't start with that, what your purpose, your vision, and what you want in the business and what you want from the business, then you're not going to know what you're actually looking to grow. You don't have the roadmap. You don't know what you're doing. You can't then create your what everyone else is doing either. So it's very important that you all look at that. And like I say, like the growth formula, it's Y, in brackets T plus R plus S, which is like you, and then team rhythm of the business, and structure of the business. This is all in the book, not the formula, but the actual different items in the chapter. Wake up and smell the coffee. Now, I have this as a chapter in the book as well, and the reason I say wake up and smell the coffee is it's something I had to do. So I need to realize, which I did in 2020, that I had to do something, and it was me that was holding everything back. And it's worth understanding that you will be that bottleneck, and it's a very difficult one if you are the bottleneck, to make sure that you are changing things, because it's not always that straightforward, but you need to be looking at what to do, because it is really not what you want to be doing. So otherwise you're going to be doing the same things all the time. So I realized that I did not do certain things, and and if I carried on doing those certain other things, that I would be an operator in the business forever. So I knew that I had to change things. So I actually prefer strategy and focusing on other things like the business. I loved writing the book. I'd love to write another book next year, but I need to bring that time to myself as well to do that. So you need to create that structure and everything, but you need to wake up and smell the coffee and make sure you are the one that is looking at yourself and looking at what you want and where you should be going. The key is to realize first your purpose and what you are wanting to go and do, and assuming that you then realize what you can do is to change everything. And the mindset, you are the reason that you are basically not got the growth that you want. You need to make sure you do that. That's what I've said in your mindset. And that's why, like I say, I start with the you in the firm you want. And you can't blame anyone else. And by taking out the responsibility, it empowers you to make change. This will be a step by step. So don't ever think that you can do it without a step by step, because it is not really what you can do. You have to do it gradually. But you will get there. And it's having that right mindset that pushes you towards the vision, with your purpose driving you. Not everyone finds their purpose easily, and creating that vision. So it's actually worth looking into that and identifying it if you haven't got it. And we're not going to be doing that today. We have done that in previous webinars, so do look at those if you want to. And it's also in my book. There's a whole dedicated chapter to this, wake up, smell the coffee as well, and everything else. So ego. So this can ensure failure. So I'm talking about things that can ensure failure. So do you have an ego? We all do. The key is to understand your ego and not to allow it to hold you back. So I'm focusing on you as the main barrier to growth in this webinar, and you need to sort of allow your ego to identify this, and you can change things, and only you can change the focus of your business and how you think. So with ego, you need to make sure that you realize that you are not the only one that can do things. And this is something that took me a while, and I'll talk into this later as well. But with certain things and tasks that I did, like company secretariat, I didn't hand that over to anybody for I think it was a year almost, and I should have handed that over straight away as soon as I had somebody coming into the business, because I thought I was the only one that could do it. So you need to allow other people to grow and experience, but that does mean allowing them to make mistakes. Because without that, you're not going to be able to move forward, and they won't grow either. This is Mary Tyler. I love this quote. So take a chance, make mistakes. That's how we grow. So that's take a chance, make mistakes. That's how we grow. And a lot of that is letting go, which I'll be going on to shortly as well. So letting go is absolute key to any business owner. So once you've woken up and smelt the coffee and you put your ego in check, and that's one thing that Dwight Johnson, so the Rock, always states, that it can impact you negatively if you don't put your ego in check. But by allowing others to do things that you do, you can then delegate, but make sure you don't abdicate. So abdication's where you just give it and don't really have any responsibility for it, to make sure that they're doing it and follow up and having, KPIs or everything in place. But letting go is key. Knowing that you're the bottleneck in whatever areas you are, and then seeing other people as bottlenecks. So I've seen within the businesses that, Naylor Accountancy Services, we've got other team members that have now become the bottlenecks. And we need to be looking at, and we are looking at, how we can stop those bottlenecks and free them up so they can actually focus on other things. So that's what we're working on within Naylor Accountancy now. So it's never ending. But first of all, you need to look at yourself and what bottlenecks that you can stop. And then what you can delegate, and this is the letting go, so letting other people do it, because if you've got a team, they're there to help you. If you don't have a team, you might have some contractors that can help you or anything like that. Obviously we have intelligent outsourcing. That's where you can actually farm things out to an offshore team in the Philippines that work exclusively for you, using your systems and processes, and that's another way of doing that as well. So letting go and making sure that you free up that time from you or your team so that you can actually focus on what's important. And we don't want to sometimes trust someone else with what we think we're the best person to do, and also people are careful and worried about trusting someone with the deadlines because they think that they're the only one that can chase up on it. So for me, the big thing is allow other people to do things by trusting them. So trust is a massive thing, and if you don't trust others, you'll never grow your business, and you'll only be the only truly person that you'll be able to trust. So you need to trust people, you need to allow them to make mistakes and learn from them. The big thing is, as Henry Ford said, is that the only real mistake is the one from which you learn nothing. So you do want things to be improving. So if people make mistakes, they make mistakes, but they need to learn from it and then make sure that they don't carry on making that mistakes. If they do, then you need to be re-looking at what the issues are and why they're not understanding what they should be doing. In Naylor Accountancy Services, we have Project Perfect, and that's where we all identify issues that might be happening. So if we have an issue with the payroll, just anything there, we'd put that in Project Perfect. There'd be somebody looking at a solution together, and then we'll put that into the process so that it doesn't happen again. Let everybody know as well. So the idea is that they shouldn't be happening all the time. They should just happen now and then you'd be moving on. Key is to let go and delegate. So leadership is all about influence. So you must get your team on board with your vision. I know I've spoken about vision before, and you also must get them on board with what you want them to do. Ensure that they're motivated to move things forward. What I've found is once you've developed it, you want them to help develop it, especially in your leadership team, so that you get them reviewing it and you get them updating it, so they become part of your vision and engrossed in it and actually part of it, which motivates them to move it forward. Again, I'll cover this, like I keep saying, in one of the other webinars in the growth series, so take a look at that on YouTube. It's also in my book, The Firm You Want. So business leadership, that basically involves guiding and inspiring a team to achieve organizational goals. And John Maxwell, so he's a big authority in leadership and written loads of books on leadership and talks about it all the time. So he says, everything rises and falls on leadership. And that's so true. So if you are able to have people following you and creating other leaders, then you will be able to have that business that can grow, because the big key thing is allowing others to grow and creating that leader. So you want to basically create and develop leaders within the business. So you don't want to be the hero all the time. If you don't develop leaders, then what happens when you're not there? Basically, they need your leadership if there's an issue, rather than if they become leaders, they can actually sort out any issues that crop up whilst the day-to-day are going on and you're not in the office. So you need people to take responsibility and think independently, and also be able to lead others. And that's will allow you to let go more. So it's all part of letting go. So you need to let go bit at a time. Obviously you can't do everything. Then you need to make sure that those people you're letting go, you are motivating them in the right way to follow your vision and purpose. Then you need to make sure that you keep growing those and motivating them and giving more autonomy to become better leaders. And this is called the multiplier. So there's Liz Wiseman. She says multiplier or diminisher. So diminisher is somebody who makes people work less efficiently and doesn't like, they're very sort of autocratic potentially. Steve Jobs was actually a diminisher, whereas you've got the Microsoft CEO. He's not. He's a multiplier. I can't remember his name, I'm afraid, but he's a multiplier. So, but don't be scared to change directions either. So you need to let go, but by changing direction as a leader, you may have to do that. You'd have to probably talk to your leadership team, but the idea is that you might need to do it due to market conditions. So maybe a new competitor or a change in demand of the services through AI or something like that. Financial considerations might be happening that need to change your what direction you're taking, and that could be the fact that you're not making the targets that you need to make. And then there's all internal factors. Team members may leave, so you might have some of the leadership team leaving. So all of a sudden you've got a bit of an issue that you need to then replenish and build up again. And also you've got external factors like we had COVID years ago, and then also AI impact as well. I'm not going to go into detail, like I say, in the leadership, because we have covered that in detail in another webinar. And we were in that, it was series 4, the growth formula, and that is on YouTube, and it's leading your business and managing your A team. This is a very quick one, guys. I'm not making this a long webinar. I'm making it more bite-sized. I'm going to see how you guys think about that as well. But the idea of the bite size is that now you have sort of a very quick idea of what the barriers are to growth, the ways to overcome the barriers, and the reason for success or failure. Importance of letting go. So letting go to me is the most important thing, and most people don't realize that they have to, and trusting people and allow them to make mistakes. If you don't do that, it is a big issue. And leadership is key, because growth of any business rises and falls on leadership, as John Maxwell said. So this is a quicker than normal webinar. There are Q&As here, so if you have any, do put them in. So I'll just have a quick look. But what I'd say is there are more barriers. Obviously, I've gone into them very quickly, and I've focused on the you, so what you can do and what is in your control very easily and very practically to change things. And a lot of that is your mindset, your structure, and then also your team around you, the way you look at the resources being allocated. So I've got a question. What was it that made you wake up and smell the coffee? So what was it that made you wake up and smell the coffee? It was basically, I wasn't able to, and I was really struggling to understand how to free up my time in Naylor Accountancy Services so I could focus more on intelligent outsourcing, because I couldn't ever spend that much time in intelligent outsourcing. Obviously I have Dee there, I have other people there as well, so it was very good, but I wasn't able to do that. But what I'd say is it's because I knew I need to free up my time, but also we were stagnating. We were sort of flatlining in Naylor Accountancy Service. At a certain revenue, we went up very quickly, and then we just seemed to flatline. It was during COVID, so we went down and then up. But then for 3 years, sort of, I think it was around COVID time, and going into that, we seemed to just sort of flatline. And I knew I had to change things so that I could free up my time, focus on different things within the business, so I could actually make the whole business move forward in both intelligent outsourcing and Naylor Accountancy Services, and I could focus on what I wanted to do rather than just the grind of a lot of the things. So we were able to then put a strategy in place so I could do it. I put my vision in place. We brought people in. We actually did an acquisition, and the reason for the acquisition was so I could get team members in. So we suddenly had enough revenue to warrant more team members because they sort of came with the business, and then I could create my leadership team. We had some people already in the Philippines, but we needed people in the UK. So that's what we did. And then we've just been growing it since. We're constantly looking at how we can improve things, which I know most of you are doing anyway. So I hope that answers that question. But I'm always looking as well at what things I might be doing wrong or how I'm looking at things. So that's something that never changes. But you just follow a structure and a process, and then it just helps you push through everything. What do you find the most difficult? I'm guessing this is in breaking the barrier, breaking the chains of the barriers. I think it's very easy because I obviously have written the book, the Firm You Want, but when I look back, it all seemed to just go into place. It looked quite like it was neat and it was meant to happen that way, but it certainly wasn't. It was something a bit at a time happened, and then it just all sort of gelled together. And that's why I wrote the book, because I realized that it's not that difficult to get the firm you want and get the growth that you want and actually get yourself stepping out of the business. The difficulty is being practical about it, knowing what the practical steps are, and then just following through on it belligerently all the time, making sure that you're following a structure, making sure you keep doing the same thing, even if you think it's boring and it's dull and you don't need to do it. So it's like we have a weekly leadership meeting. We don't always need a weekly leadership meeting, but we always have one. And then at the end of it, we always realize it was worth having it. And it just keeps us all on target, on track, especially for Naylor Accountancy. It means that we never have any big issues because they literally are always smaller issues. We don't have massive ones, and that's why we have Project Perfect within Naylor Accountancy, and we're sort of bringing it into IO in certain areas as well. But it means that you can then keep looking at what can be improved. But it's like getting the ingredients. So the most difficult one, I think, for me, the first one was trusting and letting go. So that was the big one. And that was just right at the start, virtually, or near the start of letting go of work so I could get someone else to do it. And that was a big eye-opening. And then the next big one was when I actually got in my client manager to take the clients off me. I was worried that all my clients were going to leave and everything. It never happened. I was always there in the background if they needed me. This is within Naylor Accountancy Services. But the person I brought in is an 18 player, and he's done a great job with them, and all the team supporting him around them have also done a great job. And that's what we're finding with everything. It's step by step, and just making sure everything's there. And I do think one thing as well that was difficult was that it wasn't really I knew I needed to do an acquisition, but the first acquisition was the most painful thing I've ever done. and the book tells the story of that, so I'm not going to go into it. But that was very painful, but I learned so many lessons from it, and I've actually got myself a better structure for the business, for Naylor Accountancy Services, better team members as well in the UK from it, because we had to do a massive change there, and we've all sort of been moving forward on that trajectory for Naylor Accountancy Services as well. Any other questions? What leadership style are you? So leadership style. So I'm a multiplier. So I like to create other leaders, and I like to see them thrive. But I will also put pressure on them. But that's not just leaders. It's also people that I can, in team members. If I can see they're not fulfilling their full potential, I will put pressure on them to make sure that they are actually fulfilling it. But I am a multiplier, and I think the multipliers are the ones that do the best in leadership. And that they allow, and by multiplying other leaders, yes, you might lose some of the leaders because you're multiplying them and they actually learning a really good skill. But what it allows you is to step back, and then they can take a lot of the pressure away from you, and they solve issues together, or as an individual, then tell you what they've done as well. As long as it's within your core values, which we have in Intelligent Outsourcing and Naylor Council, we're absolutely fine. What have been the barriers you faced in your accounting business? How do you overcome? So, Brian, I think I may have answered that already. I'm pretty sure I have. But the big one was me. I was the bottleneck. If without me doing what I had to do and step back and then bring people in, and doing the acquisition helped that, because I suddenly got a big splurge of revenue coming in to allow it, like I said, to get the team members. Then sort of creating that structure around the team so that we then have a regular rhythm of the business, which is another webinar that we've got, the rhythm of the business, which is very key to the structure. That's how we overcome them and make sure it's moving forward. I've still got other barriers now of my own that I need to be pushing forward, because we've got so many things happening, visions, acquisitions, and ways forward that we're looking at within other businesses, within our sphere. So it's all helping us grow leaders, create leadership teams. I know now I need to create more leadership teams in other places as well as it grows. But the key barrier has been me, and that's any business owner. You are the key to the barrier, because you are the key bottleneck. It's your mindset, your psychology of what you know that you want and what you know you can do, but what you trust other people to do and what you believe other people can do, and allow them also to make mistakes. So I hope that answers that question. Oh, you did say, I think you've covered that, so I'll follow it. So we'll ask a follow-up. I think your point about trusting the team is key, and any tips you can share, and how you recognize that trust. Yeah, I've just mentioned trust, so that was a good way in there. So with the trust, it's actually just what it sounds. It's just trusting people. You need to first of all make sure they have your core values. So whatever your business is, make sure you've got core values in your business. We have got a whole webinar on core values, I believe, in Naylor Accountancy YouTube. So have a look at that if you want to have a look at that. But the core values are key, and making sure that they're the right person. You know that you can trust them, but you shouldn't be hiring anyone if you can't trust them. If you have trust issues, you should be firing them. In reality, so that's what I'd say with trust. How you recognize it as well is if people. And this is more the care. So one of our core values in both Naylor and Naylor Accountancy Services and Intelligent Outsourcing is care. So if somebody cares, that's really key, because you want them to be able to understand what they're doing, but also care for it. So they want to do a good job, an excellent job, which is another one of the core values. So you want to make sure that's happening. So you want to be looking out for those core values that are there, like the care, the excellent service, and accountability. So they need to be accountable, not blaming others. So we use Orbid a lot. I've mentioned that in quite a few webinars. So with Orbid, you want to be above the line, so have ownership, accountability, and responsibility, not below the line, and blame, deny, and excuse, because that's the victim. The top is the victor. So we want everyone to be on there. If they're too much of a blaming, that you've got to be careful that with that trust, you've got to explain why they shouldn't be blaming, why they need to move above the line, and change their mindset, because if they don't, you're going to be struggling to be able to trust they can carry on and do things without blaming somebody else, because they need to take that ownership and accountability. So trust. Also, if people if you lose trust with someone, it's very difficult to build up, and that's when you may need disciplinary within. Well, it depends what that trust is. So I hope that is explained a lot of that. But the trust is also something you need to do as an individual, and it's letting go. If you don't let go, you will never trust anyone. And with accountants and bookkeepers, it's really a big thing that you think, because I was the same, and I know lots of accountants like this even now. And the person I first bought the first accountancy firm from was 100% like this. If you don't trust other people to do the good job, to file something like the VAT or even the year-end accounts, whatever, then if you can't trust them to do that, you have to do it. And if you do it, you're the bottleneck, and you're not delegating, then you are the one that is going to slow the growth of your business. And also you're going to contain it. You can't grow, and you're going to be stressed. You're not going to be able to go on a holiday or anything like that. So trust is so key. I think I've covered all those questions from you, Bryn, I believe. So what is your biggest tip to ensure you grow your firm? So the biggest tip I can give anyone is to realize you are the problem to grow the firm, and take that accountability yourself and responsibility, and then look at what you can do in changing your mindset to allow you to grow. But also you need to work out your purpose or anything there, and by doing that allows you to create your vision, and then you are then driven as well, because you need to be driven in your business. Otherwise, what are you doing it for? And if you don't have a plan, so make sure you've got a plan, because if you don't have a plan of where you're going, you're not going anywhere. You're just doing the same thing. If you have a plan, you tend to get there. So if you have a map, or the sat nav, and you put, you're going from London to Leeds, but you have no idea where Leeds is, you put Leeds in and you follow that route. If you don't put Leeds in and you have no idea, you just follow the roads, you're going to end up being lost. So it's knowing what you want, then making sure that that you go that way, but remembering that you, and this is the biggest tip, are actually the one who is the barrier to everything. And you are the biggest tip is look at yourself and what you can do to help yourself. And that's what the book does talk about. And that's why, like I say, the growth formula starts with you. It's a why, and the rest is in brackets, because if you don't get that right, you're not going to move forward. But it's a big thing for accountants, because I meet so many very intelligent, brilliant accountants, but they won't trust anybody because they think that they are the best at everything, and they have to allow others to make mistakes as well, but obviously learn from them and teach them. What barrier did you find the hardest to break? So basically, once I realized what I wanted and what I needed to do, it was actually to get the right team in place, but not in the Philippines, because we had an offshore team in the Philippines. It is to get the right team in place here in the UK, which is where I am right now. And that difficulty is what most accountancy firms find as well, and bookkeeping firms. It's not easy finding the right team in the UK. We did find them, and we did create the leadership team around it, and now we want to be, we've got that structure. But that was the most difficult one, because when I did the first acquisition, I was bringing on 2 client managers. Those 2 client managers, that was one of the reasons I brought them on. They left within 3 months, so I was in stuck. So then I needed to get people to help me. Luckily in the Philippines, our offshore teams there were coming in and helping me. In the leadership team, Intelligent Outsourcing, where accountants were coming in and helping to make sure it all worked. But then we got a few people back that used to work for us, and then we've got someone else as well, and they actually ended up being better than the client managers we did have. So it worked out a positive that we got better 18 players through that, which is who the guys in some of the client managers that we have now in Naylor accountancy services. So that's what I found the hardest, getting that UK leadership team set up, because I had a leader in the Philippines for Naylor, but I needed people here. It couldn't just be me and him in a leadership. No, it was her, I think, at the time in the leadership team. It had to be more people. So that's what we did. But we created it. So at the moment there's 5 of us in the leadership team in Naylor Accountancy Services. If the next acquisition goes through, which we're hoping, then there'll be more than that as well. There'll be another 3 coming in. So the idea there is that we'll just be growing the leadership team as is required, and then maybe create splinter groups as we get bigger, in sub areas or whatever that is. But as a leader, what would your biggest tip be? So as a leader, so one tip that I would give anyone is listening. Listening is an art. It's not straightforward, but because you want to be listening actively. So I think it's Stephen Covey said, most people listen with intent to reply, not intent to listen. So if you listen with intent, well, if you listen intently, so you actually listen to what they're saying, that is a big thing, especially as the leader, listening to everybody in the team. So making sure you hear them. This can be difficult, and I found it difficult at the start because you think that you know what they're going to say. You don't have much time, so you try and go quicker. You try and move things forward, but you don't know what they're going to say. Also, you need to make sure people feel listened to, because if they don't feel listened to, they feel that you're just bulldozing them. And you also need to, this is why we have the leadership team. So listening. So I listen a lot in our leadership team meetings. I always go last if there's an issue. And the reason for that is I want to hear what everybody else has to say about an issue, what they think the issue is, and also what they think a solution could be. And then I will come in at the end, because I don't want to sway anybody's opinion. I want to hear everybody, and that's why we have different people in our leadership team, so we can listen to other people's views, because you never know what you don't know. So you want to be listening. That's your team, your leadership team, your clients as well. You want to be listening to your clients, what they are wanting, not thinking this is what they need. So it's, you can't just prescribe everything. You need to be listening to what they want, and as well, and then that will help you and your team develop the services that you need for your clientele. But listening, and they do say we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So we should be using that ears more. But that was also quite a difficult one for me, just listening, and I struggle more with my wife than anybody, which I'm sure anybody who's married will probably have the same thing. So I do really focus on that so much, listening, and it's a big tip. Okay, guys, if there's no more questions, then I'm going to sort of move forward. So if you want to get a copy of the book, it is on Amazon. I will be in Accountex Canada at some point in November, if you're in Canada. So you can get one there for free. It is online. It's on Kindle as well, so it's very cheap on Kindle. It will cover lots of what we've covered in detail. It is written very easy to read, because it's how I like things, and very practical as well. So do take a look if you haven't got it. So my parting thought is, success is neither excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough, is neither magical or mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. So success is neither magical or mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying basic fundamentals. This is Jim Rohn, who was the mentor to Tony Robinson. If you know Tony Robinson, he's amazing, Jim Rohn. He's got lots of books as well. What I'd say is, this is just talking into what we've been doing. All this growth series as well. There's lots of tips in there. If you just follow things, it's not rocket science. It's just following it gradually, and then success happens. If you do want to connect to me, do come on DM or questions directly. Just DM me on LinkedIn. If you are interested in creating an offshore team or knowing more about it, you can also let me know, and I'll put you in touch with our partnership team. But thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the series. Thank you. Bye.